Right, let's get started, shall we? Because Natalie and I have set ourselves the challenge of getting a 2-hour workshop into 1 hour for you. So we're not going to whiz through. What we wanted to do is give you a real kind of overview of who we are, what we do, how we help organisations. It is going to be interactive, you'll be pleased to know. So there's going to be lots of talking from you, but Natalie is my aide and the scribe, because it gives me social anxiety to write in public, is going to help keep us on time as well. But today, really for the next hour, we want to take you on a journey. We want it to be thought-provoking, and we're going to take you through a recruitment journey. So we need to take a deep breath, breathe, strap ourselves in for what is commonly known in the recruitment industry as the recruitment gauntlet. And really our aim by the end of this session is for you to be able to make the case for inclusive recruitment, go back to your organisations. I love the fact that we started talking about creating a movement on this table over here. Let's use this as an opportunity to really kind of drive impact. We want everyone to have illustrious careers. We want to be paid fairly for the work that we do. We want to be treated with respect by the people in the organisations that we work for. And we want to enjoy our work. And we don't think that's too much to ask for. So the first question, handing my clicker, I've fallen at the first hurdle. The first question I want us all to really think about is, what are the biggest challenges your business is facing right now? And we're just going to have things shouting out. We're not going to stay long on these topics because, like I said, 2 hours into one, we're going to see how this goes. But what are the biggest challenges that we think that we're facing in terms of industry at the moment?
Competition from other sectors.
Brilliant. Okay, excellent.
Uncertainty in terms of skills strategy.
Uncertainty. Funding. Love it. Anything else? Increasing. Yeah. NI. Lovely. Yeah, absolutely. Pace of change, and we're going to talk about this VUCA world that we're all trying to navigate ourselves through at the moment, and the impact that's having on us in terms of organisational, progress.
AI.
Love it. AI, yeah.
Working culture, return to office.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, huge challenge for us at the moment. Great. Okay. And sorry. Well, absolutely. Budgets, money, need more of it. Yeah, absolutely. Competitors, we do a huge amount of work in, public and third sector, but also with, private sector clients, competitors. There's a huge amount of pressure at the moment for lots of organisations. And what about your most important stakeholders? Who would you say your most important stakeholders are in your organisations at the moment?
Our customers.
Customers, fantastic. Yeah, great. Sorry, I missed that one. Staff, yeah. Employees, absolutely. Learners, shareholders, budget holders, fantastic. And all this stuff is going to become really important. I probably should actually tell you that there is going to be a task at the end of this. And the task is that we are going to create the business case for inclusive recruitment. So all of this stuff is going to come in useful. But what is it that we're actually trying to achieve when we hire someone? When we go through a recruitment process, what is it that we're trying to achieve as an organisation? So you took the words right out of my mouth. We're trying to hire the best person for the job. And I would also add, to drive business performance. Okay, we're doing it for a reason. We're going to hire the best person for the job to drive business performance. Now, when I started in recruitment many moons ago, offices looked like this. I wore ill-fitting power suits like this. I have to say my style hasn't changed a considerable amount. We used to meet people face to face. We didn't have social media. We didn't have text messages. We didn't have WhatsApp. I didn't communicate with my kids on TikTok or Snapchat. I used this. I used to phone people all the time. I spent 8 hours a day on the phone if I wasn't there face to face. And I used to send CVs on something that looked like this. And I have to say, this is the oldest looking fax machine picture I could find, but this is a really modern one compared to the one that I used to work on. And why did people come to me during that time? You know, I started my career 25 years ago. I moved on in the corporate world. I used to place receptionists and customer service and administrator staff. And over that kind of 20 years and 3 kids later, I was placing financial controllers, CFOs into some of the UK's well-known brands and businesses. But why did they come to me? Out of everyone that they could come from, why did they come to me? They came to me because I knew which ponds to fish in. And this pond is going to become really important, which is why I put this funky picture up here. But I knew which ponds I needed to fish in, okay? I knew who the top talent on the market was. I knew how to engage with that talent. If they weren't on the market, I knew how to entice them onto the market. I convinced businesses to pay over the odds for these candidates. And every candidate that I represented, I guaranteed them a pay rise. Everyone's happy, right? Well, it turns out that everyone was not happy. Because some 20 years later, and I say 3 kids later, my clients started asking me for something a little bit different. They started asking me for a gender balanced shortlist. And then the realization hit me like a ton of bricks that I, as the recruiter, I was the problem. And I would always kind of call myself, you know, feminist. Yeah, I'm here for female rights. I'm like, why can't I get a gender balanced shortlist? Why can't I deliver this? It is a question that I'm ashamed to say now I had never even considered. And it was a deep dive on this question, the looking in the mirror, that changed the course of my career forever. And I liken the wonderful world of EDI, which we now are very firmly placed in, as like Pandora's box. Once you start seeing these inequalities, you can't unsee them. And so this is when, essentially, Talent Included was born. So who are we? Me and Natalie. We were going to start this session with Let's Get Down to Business, which is a song that we sing to each other every Monday morning to get ourselves ramped up for the week. But we're on a mission. You know, we're on a mission to make every work accessible, equitable and inclusive. And we have spent hours upon hours upon hours researching the benefits of what diversity, equity and inclusion brings to the workplaces and then hopefully wider society at large. We don't stand for paying it forward. What isn't really our core is, you know, doing the right thing, because we actually find that quite patronising to the underrepresented groups that we're trying to create equity for. Instead, we focus the work that we do on the real benefits of EDI to gain a competitive edge in a commercial world. And we help our clients create these business cases, because what we tend to find, there's a lot of senior level buy-in that organisations find really, really hard to get. You know, how do we get our message out there? So this is what we're going to be taking you through today. So before we run this recruitment gauntlet, which is, by the way, really petrifying, I want to throw out to you, what do you think the benefits of inclusive recruitment, or what diversity and inclusion could bring to an organisation, to a business? And let's shout some things out. Do over here.
Yeah.
Diverse thinking, lovely, fantastic.
Okay, that's your thought, was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Skills.
Skills, fantastic. Anything else? There's loads, by the way. I mean, we could do a whole hour just on the benefit.
Take you away from your blind spots.
Yes, fantastic. Yep. Risk mitigation, maybe?
Risk mitigation, but also innovation.
Innovation, fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Improved reputation, risk to reputation, absolutely. Any others?
Wider range of experience.
Yeah, fantastic. Wider range of experience. And I think it's also probably worth noting here that when we talk about diversity, we are all by our nature, diverse, you know. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Equality Act and what characteristics are protected by the Equality Act and which ones aren't. But what we're actually referring to when we talk about it in an inclusive recruitment setting is representation. So where there are groups of overrepresentation, more commonly in more senior roles, and where are there groups of underrepresentation? And so what we try to do through our inclusive recruitment practices is break down those barriers to be able to drive and make it more inclusive, so we have a balance of representation, essentially. So, well, hang on, where do we get to on this? Anything else in terms of benefits? Because like I said, we could do like a whole hour on benefits. Retention, yes, exactly, retention. I should also say to you, in your packs here, these are going to really help you with your the presentation that we're going to be putting together at the end. For us, in terms of the benefits, it's access to broader talent pools. We want to break down as many barriers as we can to invite as many people in. So we've got a really rich talent pool that we can look at, and fish in, if you like. And for us as recruiters, especially with some really niche roles that we look to recruit, we want those talent pools to be as big as physically possible. You know, those talent pools and those roles exist because there is a business need for that role, for that skill, for that level of experience. So the broader the talent pools that we have to start with, the better our successful recruitment is going to be. So something that we really need to bear in mind, especially if we're talking about future-proofing our organisations and the skills that we're going to need. When we spoke at our table earlier, you know, the skills that we're needing as organisations are evolving in front of our very eyes. How do we future-proof ourselves to ensure that the talent pools, when we need that talent, are big enough for us to sustain as organisations? We talked about innovation and better decision making, and we're going to talk about bias in just a moment. But yeah, we need our businesses to be able to move through this VUCA world, that, you know, this volatile, you know, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world. And I'm smiling at you because, you know, I can never get all four when I say VUCA. But it's really important that we have got innovation, we have got cognitive thinking, because again, when we talk about diversity, what we really want is cognitive diversity. And this is where the magic happens. We talk about employee retention and making sure that the people that we spend all this money and effort and time trying to come and attract and work for our organisations, they actually stay. You know, it's really important, because if not, we just have this revolving cycle, or, you know, revolving circle of people leaving the organisation. And I think it's really important, especially in the very polarised world that we're living at the moment, that people are voting with their feet. And if we think about some of our key stakeholder groups, we don't want our staff voting with our feet. We don't want our customers voting with our feet. So it's really important that we have this at the core, and inclusive recruitment really kind of helps kind of cement that. And when we talk about sustainability and we talk about ESG as a wider topic, where we're seeing a lot of the work in the ED&I space that we're doing moving in that direction, we want to be making really responsible and ethical business decisions. And we work with organisations across a number of different ED&I topics, inclusive recruitment being one of our signatures and most prominent. But from a governance perspective, in terms of a recruitment process, it gives us a real measure of actually the work that we're doing, the amazing work that we're doing in this space. And I think it was Kasim who spoke earlier around impact. The work we do, we need to create impact. And actually having a really robust inclusive recruitment strategy can really help build that governance framework and deliver the impact that we're all looking for. So, like I said, we could talk about the benefits of inclusive recruitment and wax lyrical, but I think it's really important for us to turn our attentions to what happens if we don't do it. What are the risks to our organisations? What are the risks to the young lives and you know, in terms of upskilling the people that we're trying to reach in this work? What are the risks if we don't do it as an organisation? And I don't know if anyone's read this incredible book by Matthew Syed. Yeah, Black Boxing. It's fascinating, isn't it? Anyone else read it? This is all around how.
Rebel Ideas.
Sorry?
And his book Rebel Ideas.
And Rebel Ideas, absolutely. Rebel Ideas is brilliant. Yeah, it is. But he talks about the concept of how we create cultures and environments within the workplace to really drive innovation. to really ensure that we are creating an environment where there is a think tank at our fingertips at any given time. So as we're trying to navigate ourselves through this VUCA world, we know we've got the right skills and we've got the right voices at the table in order to help us through these challenging times. And I think it's probably fair to say over the last couple of years, and probably what's happening from a political standpoint moving forward, turbulent times are here to stay. So how do we make ourselves as organisations more adaptable and more agile to deal with these challenges? And he talks about the opposite really of a think tank. And he talks about this concept of groupthink. And groupthink breeds where there are groups of overrepresented characteristics in a particular group. And what groupthink does, and you can probably potentially see it in the organisation that you work for, companies that you've worked for before, everyone nods. Yeah, I thought that too. They don't really think it. They're just actually agreeing with the guy that sat next to them. But what groupthink does is it creates a very false sense of invincibility. Yeah, we know what to do in this situation because someone has an idea and everyone just agrees with them. And it creates such risk to organisations in terms of thinking they're more robust than they are. Saeed cites the 2008 financial crash happened because there was an overconfidence that the banking system could survive what it was going through. And as we all know, that kind of ended in a little bit of a disaster. So it's really important that we don't ignore the warning signs and don't create environments within our workplaces create masks of the warning signs that we need to have in the room. And so this is why diverse thinking and cognitive diversity is so important in an organisation. So what are we going on to next? The E, A and the I of inclusive recruitment. But whilst we're going through this next part of the presentation, what I'd like you all to do is just think about and give your time some time to reflect on where the gaps potentially are in your organisation at the moment. A lot of the work that we do, starts with a simple audit. I'm going to take you through the various stages, and this is a really simplified version, the various stages of a recruitment process, because I want to highlight not only the amazing work recruitment teams do, and I say this obviously as a recruiter, but there are so many different touch points within a recruitment process where the process can fall down. Okay, there are so many different points within a recruitment process when you're thinking about it from an accessibility and equitable and an inclusive lens, where we think actually we've probably got some work to do. And a lot of the work that Natalie and I do with our clients starts with a simple audit. Can we take ourselves through this recruitment gauntlet? Can we put ourselves in the shoes of someone who is looking to go through that recruitment process themselves? And can we start to uncover some gaps where we think that we can plug and make the experience a better one and make the outcome hiring the best person for the job? Hang on, there's the first bit of interaction. Do you know, when I'm presenting, I feel like I really wang on. I think I can't bear the sound of my own voice, but hang on, this is over to you now. So what I'd like you all to do on a piece of paper, maybe on the corner of one of these big sheets, if you haven't got one in front of you, we're going to take you on the privilege walk. Has anyone done the privilege walk before? Oh, brilliant. Sometimes I have been like, yeah, we've all done it. This is great that you haven't done it. Okay, brilliant. The reason we like to take businesses through, and we do this presentation for senior leadership teams as well, to help convince them that inclusive recruitment is a good idea. The reason we do it is because lots of organisations really challenge to get senior buy-in to EDI initiatives. Sadly, the industry has been used as a political football at the moment, which isn't helping our cause. It's not helping the movement that we're trying to create in the EDI space, which is essentially to change the lived experience and outcomes for those in marginalised groups. And sometimes it's quite tricky and difficult for those in senior leadership positions to really connect and resonate with that. So we find that this exercise works quite well. So what I'd like you to do is to draw a staircase, and I want you to pretend that this staircase is staircase to heaven. It's your career trajectory, essentially. It's your career ladder. Okay, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And for each question where the statement resonates with you, you agree with the statement, you can identify with the statement, I would like you to move one step up the career ladder. It's quite jarring when we do this in a room and get everyone to stand up and move. I'm not going to ask you to do that. It can all just be a bit of a self-reflection exercise. But the first question I want to ask for you to answer is, you are a man. So if you are a man, I would like you to take your first rung on the ladder. You are white is the second question. You are under 45. You are heterosexual. You are cisgendered. You don't, sorry, in terms of cis, sorry, apologies. If you are cisgenders, you identify the gender that you were born. So you haven't gone through any kind of transition. You don't have a disability. You are not neurodivergent. You don't have an accent.
Yeah.
I picked up on your lovely accent earlier. I love an accent. Do you ever go on holiday and come back 2 weeks later and you actually talk like the accent? I do that all the time. Pick it up, really. I love it. I had a great weekend in Ireland once. Came back. Different person. Loved it. English is your first language. So next rung, English is your first language. Your name is Anglo sounding. You haven't had a career break. You are not a caregiver. You don't need any adjustments. You went to university and you are mentally well. And I think when we start to go through this as a reflective exercise, it helps, individuals to really start to resonate and think, actually, if they are all barriers, if all of those those 15 questions I asked you there, if they're all barriers and I didn't face any of them, what did that mean for my career? What does that mean for me walking through life? And it's easy to think, well, I don't see colour, I don't see disability. You don't, because actually you're never having to experience it. And I think it's also really important, and these are lots of the conversations that we have in this space, is the word privilege is so triggering, okay? It's quite uncomfortable, isn't it, to think you've got privilege. It's quite uncomfortable if maybe you haven't been through an experience or an exercise like this to think, what does privilege even mean? And a lot of the pushback we get, we do lots of listening group work, we do lots of one-to-one coaching with execs, we do lots of kind of one-to-one coaching with people who want to learn more about ED&I, is that it's not about taking a privilege from one person and giving it to someone else. You're not going to lose out because I'm doing this to make this process more equitable. It's actually around taking away the advantage. So if we swap the word privilege, you've got privilege, triggering, I'm offended, I'm completely switched off, to actually let's talk about how any of these things that you do or don't have could be an advantage to you over someone else. How can we level up the playing field? We just feel like sometimes that's a bit of a softer way. Now, who believes that we live in a meritocracy, where everyone is promoted and paid based on their skills and abilities? No one. Good. Because it's not the truth. It's not accurate, unfortunately. And this visual from Sylvia Duckworth, again, is a really, really good way for us to look at not only the intersectionality of all these different characteristics and what makes us us in terms of identity markers, but this visual shows that if you look in the middle of the circle, these are the things that are really kind of focused around societal privilege or power. And as you move out into the outside of the circle, actually how they can really impact the way that people view you, that it really impact your opportunities and the barriers that exist in society at large, but more specifically within the workplace today. And when we talk about the myth of meritocracy, And I want to take us back to this recruitment pond that I was merrily fishing in back in my recruitment days. This is me, a big fat fish up there, going, this is my pond, I'm fishing in it. But what are your key observations when you start looking through the pond? And I appreciate some of it's a little bit blurry, even I can't read it from this close up. Here, you can't pronounce my name. These fish don't feel like they can swim into my little pond up here and be happily picked out of the market, picked out of the pond by me. There are so many biases that exist in recruitment processes, recruiter preference. I don't think that pool is for fish like me. I need flexibility. Should I lie about my sexuality? So it's a really sobering fact, and these are in your packs as well, in terms of actually the state of the inequalities in the UK employment market. And seeing them in black and white is harrowing. And understanding that the role that we play as all of us, and they're in our pack, they're in your pack, so there's some takeaways for you. But the roles that we play in terms of actually what impact can we have on some of these stats, hopefully is quite empowering. So let's talk about bias in the recruitment process. So in terms of, ways that we can overcome this, and where we can start really disrupting these biases are, having very structured interviews, redacting some information. You might see blind recruitment as a term, which again, I don't think is, particularly, I don't know the word I'm looking for, politically correct. We use the word redacted. So how can we remove bias from the recruitment process, or mitigate the risk of bias happening within recruitment processes? Training and awareness, I talked to you about, unconscious bias training, and everyone thinking they've done it. But hopefully today it gives you a real kind of flavour that we have to really start challenging the systems that we work in and the mental gymnastics that we go through when we're talking to people. Because if I'm talking to you, so I feel like I'm picking on you, I'm making assumptions in my head. We can't help doing it, but we need to really have some training and some ability to create safe environments for people to get it wrong, to then start getting it right. So where do you think those biases, the ones that we've just talked about, happen within the recruitment process? So not show up, but where do you think they happen within these recruitment processes? Is there anywhere that you think that they might not happen? It's probably the better question, actually.
Happen at the hiring panel.
You think it wouldn't happen there? Oh God, it would. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I think probably all of them somewhere.
Yeah, it is. Has that gone colour? Has that changed? Yes, it has. Sorry, you can't see the colour change. It's basically everywhere. Bias really everywhere, bar the onboarding process. So again, if we start talking about the complexities of the recruitment process, and if we're trying to break down these barriers, we've probably got quite a lot of work that we want to do. But I think it's really important to think that, biases, they're not intentional. Okay, they're really not intentional. People don't, hopefully most people don't go out to intentionally stereotype someone or discount them from a recruitment process based on their own personal preference, but they're not accidental. These biases are in our lives because of the systems that we work in, and it's really up to us to start dismantling them. More shouting out. You'll be pleased to know. Right, so we talked about some of your customers, didn't we? Your stakeholder groups. We talked about some of the challenges that you're facing as organisations at the moment. But talk to me about the industries. Can we just have a quick shout out? I'm going to need you to describe again in terms of the industries that you work in. So we've got public sector, we've got tech, we've got public sector, we've got law, engineering, pharma, banking, construction, education. Fantastic. Sorry?
Work in marine engineering, boat building, food manufacture, all sorts of.
There you go. Brilliant. Okay. And what do your customers need from your organisations? They need skills training.
high quality and unbiased assessment.
Yeah. We're working with a law firm at the moment, so we've just done a real deep dive on this. What do your customers need from you?
Experience,
Yeah.
Training, development, progression goals,
Yeah.
supervision.
With your customers, so sorry, the law firm's customers, so they need representation in court, I would imagine. They need legal advice and legal support. They need someone to guide them through a legal process, which probably they haven't been through before. So we were talking about restructuring law earlier, weren't we? So if your business sadly is going through a restructure, and I find it fascinating, the work that we do in the FMCG space, they put this front and centre. You'll see it with L'Oreal adverts. You'll see it with Procter & Gamble, who are absolutely incredible in this space. Unilever, absolutely, because they put their customer at the forefront of everything that they do. Because it has to be for the betterment of the customer. Guess why? I mean, I'm sure a lot of it is around social sustainability, but it's actually because they want to drive more revenue. So they need to ensure that their businesses are made up of a huge representation to ensure that that product is going to be fit for purpose and the product to continue to evolve. So I think it's something that we really need to be mindful of, especially when shortly we start putting this board pitch together about inclusive recruitment. So in terms of the A of, how we're going to attract these people into our organisations, if we talk about the A in inclusive recruitment, what do we think the A stands for? I was hoping someone was going to say acquisition.
Accessible.
And I was going to say no. I was going to say it's accessibility. You're absolutely right. So no one shouted out talent acquisition. So my joke is completely ruined. I was really looking forward to that. You lolled at that when I ran through it with you the first time. But what do you think makes the recruitment process inaccessible? I think sometimes it's easier to start with that question. What do you think makes it inaccessible for people? So forget about the bias gauntlet that we've just run through. What makes the recruitment process inaccessible to make people not be able to or not want to apply for a job?
Well, NHS jobs websites, 15 pages, regardless of age. So if you're a young person, it asks for 3 years work experience. It doesn't let you move on to the next page until you complete it.
So you suddenly, you immediately think, I haven't got 3 years experience. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
This place is not for me. Okay. So are your benefits creating accessibility or inaccessibility? To go back to the point in terms of digital inclusion, which is something that we all need to be really, really mindful of, especially in the changing world that we're in, is what about if English isn't your first language? How easy is it going to be for you to engage with that content? We do lots of work with kind of, ADHD, neurodiversity, autism, dyslexia. Some of this stuff, actually, if everything is being pushed online now, what if you can't engage with that content? And I want you to think about this. The way I kind of get my head around this when I started doing this work is think of all of these things, okay, as a closed door, right? And you on your website, how much money you spend, creating it, you want it to be open. You want those doors to be open to as many people as possible, okay? And a simple audit can ensure that as many doors are open as possible. We do some amazing work with an organisation called Recite Me, and you'll see their accessibility tool on our website. And this allows individuals to select how they want to engage with your content. So, for example, it will speak. This is what these little accessibility buttons do down here. It will speak and it will tell you the description of a picture that's on your website. It will translate it into your mother tongue. It will change the font size. So if you've got dyslexia, then you can consume the content the way you want to. It enlarges. It does this amazing thing. You just one click of a button and it basically removes everything on your website and just gives it as plain text. Because actually it's quite difficult for someone to go, I need to look over here, fill this box in over here, click this thing over here. Or actually, with all these jazzy websites, making it really difficult for people to engage. So something a really top tip and it's really low cost. Okay, really, really low cost stuff. And lots of the clients who work with Recite Me have actually adopted the software internally as well. So they're putting it on intranet so people within their organisations can consume the content as well. So in terms of accessibility then, we'll whiz through these last little bits. Where do you think inaccessibility shows up in a recruitment process? Shall I just give you the answer? It's everywhere. Absolutely everywhere, including on board. You can't see can you see that? It all goes red. Okay, so what do we mean by inclusion? I think in terms of accessibility, there's very much a before and after, okay? Inaccessible, accessible. When we talk about equity, again, it's great governance structures that we can put around this. What is equitable? What isn't equitable? What do we need to do to change it, to make it equitable? When we talk about inclusion, this is where everyone starts going, it's a little bit more ambiguous. What do you think that we mean by inclusion in a recruitment process? I've given you loads of clues, by the way. The door was one of them. Open to everyone. How can I see myself at that organisation? Digital inclusion is really, really important. And we've talked about Recite Me and the impact a very simple tool like that can have. But we also need to talk about and think about psychological safety. And that psychological safety comes from businesses who are really authentic about the work that they do. One of the things that we enjoy doing most with our clients is just doing a review, if you like, of all the amazing stuff that they're already doing in this kind of EDI space. They might not even call it EDI, but if you think about colleague engagement, a Peakon survey, the work that you're doing in terms of your volunteering days. We talked about dry, that's really hard to say, dry drinks. All of this stuff that we think is kind of BAU, this is the stuff that we should be putting all over our careers page, because what it shows is you belong here. If you can't drink at work events, you belong here. If you want to give back and use some of your time at work as volunteering, you belong here. Actually, we're a disability confident employer, and this is the specific stuff that we've done to make sure we get there. I belong there. So psychological safety and representation is something, again, is a really quick win. You're already doing this stuff. We just need to tell people about it. Thank you so much. And I think it's really, hopefully what we've been able to walk you through today is those kind of hard stats. Okay, so there's some evidence stuff here. There's some real, like before and after, some real metrics. If we do this, this will happen. Okay, it's going to open up our talent pools. I think you win with the bit we can't not do it, which is fantastic. We really touched on kind of sustainability and future-proofing our organisations. But one thing I do want to leave you with is it's not return of investment, it's return on inclusion. How can we use inclusion as a real business driver? And the work that we do to support our clients is really understanding where those knowledge gaps are, really upskilling recruitment teams, talent acquisition team, hiring communities, not just with the skills to be inclusive recruiters, but also coaching them through the behaviour change that we're going to have to go through as an organisation. This is a change programme, essentially. We're going to have to embed this sustained change. What else? That's it. I mean, sorry? Oh, sorry. And then we've got some free resources for you. So if you want some checklists of right, this is the things that we can go back to our businesses straight away and do, there's some free resources that we can share with you as well. So just drop us an email. Business cards are in the packs. But yeah, we're on a mission to make every workplace accessible, equitable and inclusive. And I hope now you are too.